Hello, friends, and welcome to the channel Flying Meditator. We are here with another episode of Vasishtha, in which we listen to the wonderful story of three demons called Dhamma, Vyal, and Katha. So fasten your seatbelts and let's get ready to fly. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Vasishtha said, O Rama, be established in truth and live in freedom in a mindless state. Behave not like the demons Dhamma, Vyala, and Katha, whose story I shall presently narrate to you. In the nether worlds there was a mighty demon known as Sambar. He was a past master in the art of magic. He created a magic city. He was a terror to gods of heaven. When he was asleep or away from the city, the gods took advantage of the situation and killed his army. Enraged, the demon invaded heaven. The gods, afraid of his magic powers, hid themselves. He could not find them. In order to protect his forces, the demon created three other demons called Dhamma, Vyala, and Katha. These three had no previous incarnations, and hence they were free from every type of mental conditioning. They had no fear, doubt, or other predispositions. They did not flee before the army. They were not afraid of death even. They did not know the meaning of war, victory, or defeat. In fact, they were not independent jiva. They were merely a robot-like working projections of the demon Sambara. The demon Sambara dispatched his invulnerable army, protected by the three new invincible but unarmed demons, to fight the gods. A fierce hand-to-hand fight ensued. The three principal demons looked for the principal gods, but they could not find them. The demons went back to Sambara to report to him. The gods prayed to the creator Brahma, who appeared before them at once and begged him to find a way to destroy the three demons. Brahma said, O gods, Sambara cannot be killed now. It is wise for you to retreat from the battle. In due course, on account of their engagement in this war, the ego sense will arise in the three demons. Then they will be subjected to psychological conditioning and develop latent tendencies. Just now, they are utterly devoid of the ego sense and its adjuncts. They, in whom the ego sense and its counterparts, the tendencies, do not exist, no neither desire nor anger. They are invincible. He who is bound by the ego sense and by the conditioning of the mind, even if he is regarded as a great man or a man of great learning, can be defeated even by a child. In fact, the notions of I and mine are the eager receptacles of sorrow and suffering. He whose mind is conditioned can be defeated. In the absence of such conditioning, even a mosquito becomes immortal. Brahma concluded, do what you can to create in the demons the feelings of I and mine. Since they are ignorant creatures, they will easily fall for this bait. They can be easily defeated after that by all of you. Having said thus, the creator Brahma vanished. The gods rested in their abodes for a while in preparation of a fresh onslaught on the demons. The renewed fight in between the armies of the god and the demons was even more fierce than the previous one. The continued involvement in fighting generated in the three demon leaders the basic notions of I am, even as a mirror reflects an object held close to it. One's behavior reflects as the ego sense in one's consciousness. However, if this behavior is held at a distance from the consciousness and there is no identification with such behavior, the ego sense do not arise. Once this ego sense arose, they quickly follow the desire for the prolongation of life in the body, acquisition of wealth, health, and pleasure. These desires greatly debilitated their personality. Then there arose confusion in their minds, which in turn gave rise to the feeling of this is mine and this is my body. All these inevitably resulted in inefficiency and inability to do their own work. They were greatly attached to eating and drinking. Objects gave them feeling of pleasure and thus robbed them of their freedom. With the loss of freedom, their courage also went, and they experienced fear. They were terribly worried at the very thought that we shall die in this war. The gods took advantage of the situation and began to attack these demons. The three demons, who were possessed by fear of death, fled. When the demons' army saw that their invincible protectors had fled before the invading gods, they were thoroughly demoralized. The demons fell by the thousands. When the demon Sambara heard that his army had been routed by the gods, he was furious. Referring to the three invincible demons, Dhamma, Vyala, and Kata, he demanded, "Where have they gone?" Afraid of his wrath, these three demons took refuge in the nethermost world. Though the demons Dhamma, Vyala, and Kata were really free from the cycle of birth and death, on account of their ego sense, they had to be subjected to birth and death. After a number of incarnations in different subhuman species, they are now fishes in the lake of Kashmir. Rama asked, "O holy sage, please tell me when and how these three demons will attain liberation." Vasishtha replied, "Rama, when they listen to the narration of their story and are reminded of their own essential nature as pure consciousness, they will be liberated. In course of time, there will rise a city named Adhisthana in the middle of the country known as Kashmir. In the center of that city, there will be a hill whose peak will be known as Pradyumana. On top of the hill, there will be a skyscraper. In a corner of that building, the demon Vyala will be born as a sparrow. In that building, a king known as Yasaskar will reside. The demon Dhamma will be born as a mosquito and reside in a hole in one of the pillars of the palace. Elsewhere in the city, there will be a palace known as Ratnavali Vihara, which will be inhabited by the state minister known as Narsimha. The demon Kata will be born as a bird and live in that palace. One day, the minister Narsimha will recite the story of the three demons, Dhamma, Vyala, and Kata. Listening to it, the Maina will be enlightened. It will recall that its original personality was but a magical creation of the demon Sambara. This recollection will free it from the magic of Sambara. The demon Kata will thus attain liberation. Other people will recount the story, and the sparrow will also attain liberation after listening to it. Thus will the demon Vyala attain liberation. In the same way, the mosquito demon Dhamma will also listen to the story and will also attain liberation. Such is the story, O Rama, of Dhamma, Vyala, and Kata, who, on account of their ego sense and their cravings, fell into hell. And this is nothing more than the play of ignorance and delusion. All these notions of I and you, O Rama, are unreal. That you and I are seen to be real entities does not alter the truth. Even if a dead person appears before you now, he is still dead. In fact, it is a pure consciousness that entertains the impure notions of I am, playfully, as it were, without ever renouncing its essential nature as consciousness, experiences the distorted image of itself within itself. Even though this distorted image is truly unreal, the ego sense believes it to be real and gets deluded. O Rama, they who are established in the state of liberation, as pointed out by the scriptures, surely cross the ocean of world appearance, as their consciousness flows towards the self. But they who are caught in their net of polemics, which are only productive of sorrow and confusion, forfeit their own highest good. Even in the case of the path shown of the scriptures, only one's direct experience leads one along the safest way to the supreme goal. What else is left of a greedy man except a handful of ashes? But he who looks upon the world as less valuable than a blade of grass never comes to grief. He who has fully realized that the infinite is protected by cosmic deities. Hence, one should not set foot on the wrong path, even in times of great distress. He who has earned a good reputation through a virtuous life gains whatever has not been gained and is rid of misfortune. Only he can be considered a human being who is not complacent with his own virtue, who is devoted to the teaching he has heard, and who strives to tread the path of truth. Others are animals in human disguise. He who is filled with the milk of human kindness is surely the abode of Lord Hari, who is said to dwell in the ocean of milk. Whatever has to be enjoyed has already been enjoyed. Whatever has to be seen has been seen. What else is there new in this world which a wise man should seek? Hence, one should be devoted to one's duty as ordained by the scriptures, having given up all the cravings for pleasure. Adore the saints. This will save you from death. Adhering to the injunctions of the scriptures, one should patiently wait for perfection, which comes in its own time. Arrest the downward trend by studying this holy scripture for liberation. Inquire constantly into the nature of truth, knowing that this is but a reflection. Do not be led by others. Only animals are led by others. Wake up to the slumber of ignorance. Wake up and strive to end old age and death. Wealth is a mother of evil. Sense pleasure is a source of pain. Misfortune is the best fortune. Rejection by all is the actual victory. Life, honor, and noble qualities blossom and attain fruition in one whose conduct and behavior are good and pleasant, who is devoted to seclusion, and who does not crave for the pleasure of the world, which leads to suffering. O Rama, every zealous effort is always crowned with fruition. Hence, do not abandon right effort. Weigh the worthiness of the end result. you will surely discover the self-knowledge alone is capable of utterly destroying all pain and pleasure. Hence, zealous effort should be directed towards self-knowledge alone. Get rid of all notions of objectivity created by the pleasure-seeking desire within you. Is there any happiness which is untainted by unhappiness? Both the absence of restraint and the practice of restraint are indeed one in the absolute Brahman, and there is no real division between them. Yet, the practice of restraint bestows great joy and auspiciousness upon you. Hence, resort to self-restraint and give up self-ego. Thus, have I explained to you in 1,000 ways the essential unreality of the world as an object of perception. It is nothing but the pure space of consciousness. When, in accordance with its own nature, it closes and opens its eyes, as it were, there is what is known as dissolution and creation of the universe. When it is not rightly understood, the I appears to be impure notion in the infinite consciousness. But when the I is rightly understood, its meaning is seen as the infinite consciousness. When the truth is revealed to one with a pure mind, his ignorance is at once dispelled. But others cling to their own false notion like a child clinging to the notion of the existence of a ghost. When the I, as a separate entity, is thus known to be false, how can one believe in the other notion, like heaven and hell, that are related to it? Craving for the heaven and even for liberation arises in one's heart only as long as I is seen as an entity. As long as I thus remains, there is only unhappiness in one's life. And this notion of I cannot be got rid of except through self-knowledge. However, the higher form of I-ness, which gives rise to the feeling, I am one with the universe, there is nothing apart from me, is the understanding of the enlightened people. Another type of I-ness is when one feels that the I is extremely subtle and atomic in nature, and therefore different from and independent of everything in this universe. This too is unobjectionable, being conducive to liberation. But the I-ness that has been described earlier as one identifies itself with the body, this is to be abandoned firmly. By the persistent cultivation of the higher form of I-ness, the lower form is eradicated. Then, one may either engage oneself in all activity or remain in seclusion. There is no fear of downfall for him. With this, we finish today's chapter. The remaining story we'll continue tomorrow. See you again.